Hello, it's me, Rick, and welcome back to the second episode of Opolis Inc. Today, we have a few objectives. First of all, we're gonna get into the casting mode. We're gonna get ourselves some iron, and we'll use the iron to finally craft the crafter. We're also gonna start to have a look at other quests. Over here, I've seen the overworld. This requires to find a village. We're in fact gonna do a bit of exploration and hopefully find something useful. We're then also gonna have a look over here at crops. I've seen in fact we can get a basic farming license by simply farming any type of crops. Before we get started, you'll have obviously noticed that we're in a completely different location. I've in fact finally left the horrible cave and moved here in a bit nicer area. Nothing much has changed from the last episode. I've only moved everything we had over here and sorted out our chests. Last episode we also crafted this saw, and I'd really like to use it now. By using a simple log, in fact, we can make multiple tools as well as this handheld crafting table. This is basically a portable crafting table that we can use at any time. All we need to do is hold it and right click, and we'll have a crafting table available anytime we need. The first thing we need to do to get into the casting mode is to simply get some clay ball and then melt it to get some bricks. After that, we'll be able to craft some black bricks, which is made from smelting bricks themselves. So I'm now gonna get some clay and I'll see you in a second. Right, I've now collected plenty of clay. I've also crafted a second furnace so that we can fasten things, and I can use these to smelt the bricks. That's our first black brick. We now need to use 4 black bricks to craft a black bricks. We can simply craft it like that. We now need to craft a simple controller that is crafted with 4 black bricks and 4 black brick. And then we need to craft a simple solidifier. This is crafted with 6 black bricks and 2 black brick. 2 furnaces were clearly not enough, so I made a few more, and we now have enough to craft the simple controller. And this one wants me to craft a simple tank, just like that. We've now unlocked these resource generator quests. To craft a resource generator, we need a lava bucket, a water bucket, and 6 pieces of stone. I'm gonna buy another one, and I'll quickly run down to a mine to find some lava. I'm back from a quick trip and I now have all the materials to craft the resource generator. This is going to be incredibly useful as we can use it to generate different items. We can see it by pressing U or use, and we can click here on resource generator and we'll see all the items that we can generate, which is netherrack, stone of any type, as well as basalt and cobblestone of any type. All we need to do is to place it down and then insert the item we want to generate up here. As you can see, it's starting to process. If we hover here, we can see that it takes 220 ticks to generate each block, but we can use items like a block of coal to make it slightly faster. It now takes 200 ticks instead. We can now use this cobblestone in the market, as we saw in last episode, and we basically have infinite money. And we now have enough to craft the solidifier. We now have everything to start our first smelter. All we need to do is to place the simple tank with a controller adjacent, as well as a solidifier on top. When we click on it, then we'll now get this GUI where we'll be able to smelt our raw ores. I need to once again go back to that mine and get some more lava to fill this tank. A quick trip later, and we now have 2 buckets of lava. I now need to buy this ingot mold. There it is. We can put this mold in the solidifier up here, and now we can finally smelt some raw ores. All we need to do is to place them inside the controller and just wait for it to smelt. Once it's melted, the solidifier is going to use the ingot mold that we just bought, and it's going to get us our first iron ingots. Up next is the fluid generator, which is crafted like this. We can now craft our own bucket. That's our fluid generator. The fluid generator is used to generate fluid like water and lava, which means that our tank is going to be full at all times. All it needs to get it started is a bucket of lava up here, and there you go. To get it automated, however, we'll need some mechanical pipe. To get them, we'll need to buy them from the catalog with some basic processing bucks. The basic processing bucks are obtained in the market by using a basic processing license and selling some ingots. To get the license, however, we'll need a plate mold. And to get the plate mold, we'll need a mixer. The mixer is crafted with 2 simple tanks and 6 block bricks. That's the 2 simple tanks, and that's the simple mixer. We can now buy a plate mold with 3 advanced mining blocks, and we can use the plate mold with some basic processing alloy. This alloy is made in the mixer, mixing iron and copper. Before we do that, however, we should probably buy the block mold, which once again costs 3 advanced mining blocks. Unfortunately, I've run out of advanced mining blocks, so I'm gonna have to get some more really quick. That was easy. We can now smelt some copper and use the block mold to get a couple of copper blocks that we'll use to craft a copper ore hammer. That's our copper ore hammer, and we can now use it to yield our ores. This hammer can be used to yield the ore blocks, which we can craft by using 2 or 7 for copper and 8 for redstone, ingots, dust, gems, worth of molten materials over stone, deep slate, netherrack, or endstone. Let's melt all our copper and let's put the stone in here. That's our first copper ore. Yielding also costs some basic mining blocks. However, from 1 single copper ore, we'll now get 8 raw copper instead of 7 that costed to make it. It's a small profit, but it's a profit. Now that we finally have iron, we can finally craft the crafter. And with a bit more iron, we can also craft the advanced crafter. We'll now be able to set a recipe like this, and it will automatically craft raw iron. We can put the copper as well at the recipe, and that's our 8 pieces of raw copper. This means that we'll eventually be able to fully automate the crafting, as well as the smelting of the copper mixed with the stone with a block generator. We can now replace this solidifier with a mixer. Melt a few bits of iron and a few bits of copper, which will now be mixed to create basic processing alloy. You can then attach the solidifier and use the plate mold. And once we have smelted 4 pieces of raw copper as well as 4 pieces of raw iron, we should finally have enough to make our first basic processing license. We can now smelt some more copper. I'm going to turn it into blocks first because it's faster than waiting for the ingots. We can now use the basic processing license and sell our copper. And that's our first basic processing box. We can use that to purchase a mechanical pipe. To set up the pipe, however, we'll also need a configurator, which is 1 more processing box. So I'll skip ahead and buy 1 of each of these 3 items. I'm now going off to buy both the logistical transporters as well as the configurator. We can now place these basic mechanical pipes, just like that, on the configurator. And while holding shift, we can roll the mouse wheels and go to fluids. And if we hit shift, right click over here, and then once again, it's now gonna pull the lava into the tank automatically. That's the first of many automations for this pack. What I'd now like to do is to use the resource generator to generate some infinite stone and use the logistical transporters. And if you go on items, shift right click and shift right click, we now automate the stone going in here, which is gonna mix with the molten copper, and we'll have infinite copper ores. We can then put our advanced crafter over here with the copper hammer and some mining blocks, put a logistical transporter on top. We can now put an advanced crafter. We can now put the copper ore hammer with some mining blocks as well as some copper ore. Select the right recipe, place a logistical transporter, and this will now suck out the copper ore for us, and it will insert it into the crafter. The issue now is that we now get 8 raw copper as well as a copper ore hammer. This means that the process is automated, but not fully yet. Now that we doubled with a bit of the casting mode, I'd really like to go around and explore and look for a village. By opening the JI map, I can see that there's a structure over here, so that's where I will be heading first. Turns out that wasn't a structure, but just some stupid mushrooms. I see it. I see a village. Wow, that was actually easier than I thought. We've now unlocked this set of quests. Villagers 1, Villagers 2, Villagers 3, Villagers 4, and Villagers 5. I'm also gonna steal all of their food, but please don't tell anyone. Oh, perfect. Turns out I'm incredibly unlucky and the village is infested. I'm gonna have to look for another one. A bit of time has gone past and I've now finally found another village. This time it's not infested. Some armor. And some more armor. I can now finally trade with the villagers and they will drop a receipt. I don't have all the items required with me, so I'm gonna have to take them with me. We've now got every single block. All we need is a cauldron, and we're just gonna craft it. Not a good time to find a diamond. That was close. I went looking for some iron for the cauldron, but I ended up finding way more than I expected. We now finally have enough iron to craft our cauldron. The last thing I'd like to do before we end the episode is to automate the basic mining box so that we'll be able to afford an unbreakable mining license. To do that, all we need is 3 more resource generators, which once again is crafted like this. Each of them requires a lava bucket, a water bucket, and 6 pieces of stone. Let's quickly craft them. We can now place them here. We can set each of these 3 resource generators to generate cobblestone. Place a market here. Connect them with logistical transporters and pipe the cobblestone in. Now we can place the basic mining license over here, and this will automatically sell the cobblestone from mining box. However, as we've learned from the first episode, the durability of the basic mining license is gonna go down every X seconds. I can now see we have an issue, as after selling the cobblestone, we now need to sell sand, which we still haven't automated. This seems like a good time to call it a day. Thank you so much for following along. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.